Um, Good day, everyone. How are you? Can you guys hear me now?
I can.
Excellent. So let me try to share my screen. So just give me a minute. And can you guys see my screen now?
Yes.
Excellent. So good day, everyone. My name is Imran, and I'll be presenting today's session on DevOps. So let me start without further ado. I think it's past 5 p.m. for you guys in South Africa. Unfortunately, it's 1 a.m. in Australia, and I'm presenting this session from Australia. So let me just quickly start with who we are in terms of RoundSqr and what we're going to talk about today. We will have time for question and answers at the end. So if there's any questions, please, I think you can just put it in the chat window, or you can hold on and then ask questions at the end. Okay, so we are RoundSqr. So RoundSqr is a young startup headquartered in India. We are 3 years old. We've got operations in the US, in Australia, and in India. We are trying to open up a new office in the UK for the European geography. So we are more than 100 staff. Our primary focus is in the space of artificial intelligence, machine learning, data and related technologies, so pretty much cutting edge technologies. And I myself have been working in IT for over 18 years. I've worked in Australia, in the United States, and in India, and I've held various roles in development slash architecture, quality assurance, sales, and pre-sales. So that's kind of a brief on me. Today, along with me, I will also have another presenter who's my colleague. His name is Pravat. He will take us through our real actual case study using Azure DevOps, around automated CI/CD pipelines. Um, so Pravat comes with close to 10 years of experience, and he's a technical lead on one of our projects. He's an expert with Microsoft technologies. Including .NET, Angular on the front end, Azure services. He's pretty much, expert on all Azure services. So I think I will quickly start without wasting too much time. And what we're going to cover today, as you can see on the screen, today we will cover what is DevOps essentially, and why do we need this? Why do we need DevOps, and what are the enablers for DevOps? And then, as I said, we will go through our case study using the tool which is Azure DevOps, and then we'll talk about trends in DevOps for future. Um, at the end of the session, on this PPT, I have some definitions of the terms and technologies we will use, and there's some more links to further reading to enable our listeners and viewers to actually kind of spend more time if they want to in the area. Okay, so what is DevOps? I hope you guys are able to see my screen now. So, okay, anyways, I assume that's a yes. To understand what DevOps is, I think we need to go back in time, say about 20 years from now. So essentially, back in the day, how software was developed is, someone has an idea of what they want to do with technology, what business problem they want to solve, and usually, that's the business or a person who has the idea, and you would go about, writing down your idea, doing requirements for that idea, basically spend a lot of time documenting those requirements, and then pass those requirements to a UX designers to actually create some wireframes. And then once the whole the requirements are documented and the designs are done, then you would hand it over to development team, who would actually go and then code and develop the product. And then you would, the development team, once they are complete, hand it over to the quality assurance team. um, So basically, was, as you would know, about 20 years ago, the sequential development model, also called waterfall model, right? So, and again, back in the day, it was the right thing to do, and because you had the time and the resources, and there was, not as much competition in terms of, delivering new software faster. So that was the whole, kind of a SDLC, software development life cycle, back in the day about 20 years ago. Sequential development model, each phase only started after the last phase was completed. So unless the documentation was completely documented, you would not start the actual development. And then once the development was complete fully, only then you would hand it over to QA. And then eventually, once the product was certified, you would hand it over to the operations team, who would then go and deploy, maintain, and then manage that in the production. So that whole SDLC process is the sequential model of development. But then maybe about 15 years ago, there was a paradigm shift in the way the product or the development was happening, because you no longer had the time to actually go through the sequential process. So what came into existence was a new methodology called Agile, which tried to kind of break this barriers, right, between the business, the development, the QA, and the operations team, because there was a need. So now it was no longer sufficient if you just had an idea, but it was more about how to bring this idea to the market faster. And that's when the agile development model came into existence. So basically, the agile development model, the focus was basically delivering faster, and then developing incremental and iteratively. So the whole idea was that, rather than spending too much time documenting requirements upfront, these requirements were eventually supposed to change over a period of time, right? Because as the product evolved, you would have more changes coming in. So the whole idea around agile was, you start and spend less time upfront documenting requirements. So you start light with lightweight documentation, and then as you go further, you kind of adapt, and you change your requirements. The whole idea was to deliver faster, so you would have faster, smaller iterative releases, smaller sprints. So you would have something going into production every maybe 2 weeks or every 3 weeks. That's the standard, the sprint sizes in the agile. So what this meant was that, now you were kind of creating and developing software much faster, and then certifying software much faster. But on the operations side, when you had to hand over the newly developed software, there were still bottlenecks. So that gives you a context of last 20 years, right? So the sequential development model, which evolved into more iterative agile development model, which kind of set the stage for DevOps. So as I said, so now you were able to fasten the development process. You could have faster releases. You had rapid application development, but then when it came to operations, the operations was still working in silos. So as you can see with those walls, sometimes you refer to those walls as silos, or walls of confusion, because operations has had no idea of what the QA or the development team was doing. They would barely know what was coming in a release, and by the time they knew, it was too late. So then an idea evolved, which was around how do we get these two, the operations and the development, to work together, so that you are able to achieve the goal of having faster, more reliable software delivered. Um, so that's when the whole term called DevOps was created, which is a combination of Dev and Ops. So what again, I think there's a lot of confusion in young minds as we speak about what DevOps is. A lot of young IT developers come to me saying, basically, they've learned a tool and they think, that's the tool itself is DevOps. So what it's important to understand what DevOps is not. So it's not one tool. So DevOps is not one tool. It's not one methodology or a process, but rather, what DevOps is basically, it's about culture. It's about the culture of the whole team, be it operations or development, or within those individual teams of the BAs, the developers, the QA, and the infrastructure teams coming together, and then collaborating and communicating with each other, and then with a single shared goal of delivering stable, high quality software really fast, basically from concept to customer, really fast. So basically, DevOps is not a tool, but it's about the change in culture. It's essentially all about collaborating more and communicating more with the single agenda of delivering software faster. Um, Going to my next slide, as you can see, so basically here I've captured a formal definition of what DevOps is. So in theory, a formal definition of DevOps is, it's a set of practices, tools, and cultural philosophy that automate and integrate the process between software and IT teams. It emphasizes on team empowerment, cross-team communication and collaborations, and technology automation. So it's got a heavy automation kind of flavor to it. Obviously, if you want to have faster delivery times for your software, then you need to automate parts of it, or if not all of it, certainly some parts of it. But again, it can be automation heavy, but you need to automate what you need to, not everything. But the whole idea in terms of DevOps is, it's those set of practices. Okay, so why do we need DevOps? As I said, right? So the whole now you had about 10 years ago was when this term DevOps was coined. So you had moving away from the waterfall model into the agile. So agile is basically was an enabler for DevOps. So now you had much faster delivery of software happening, but the operations teams were not able to catch up. So the whole idea of DevOps, as I said, is getting product to market faster, obviously with much better quality, without delays, on-time deliveries, and obviously with help of the CI, CD, and CT. So obviously CI stands for continuous integration, CD is continuous deployment, and CT is continuous testing. So the whole idea is that as soon as you have you commit code, and obviously I'm assuming you guys are aware of different SCM products, such as source control management, because in today's world the developers are not working, it's not like there's a couple of developers working on the project. So based upon size of the project, it can range from 1 to 2 developers to 100 to 200 developers working on the product, trying to get that to market really fast. Which means each of these developers, within the development team, may be working on same product, same module within the product, which means you would be modifying the same code files, and the SEM, so source code management products, such as so GitHub, GitLab, or in the old days SVN and CVS, allowed you to collaborate, in the developers to collaborate together. So even if they were working on the same files, they were able to edit and commit those files, without having to worry about code conflicts. So again, as I said, so we no longer have months to build and deliver product. It's most likely we now have to kind of deliver products within weeks, perhaps even days. So welcome to continuous everything. So the continuous integration, so that as soon as the developer kind of commits a certain piece of code, you have the CI/CD pipelines kicking in. You would have code being kind of built with all the dependencies, and then the deployment happens automatically. And as soon as the deployment is complete, you would have automated test cases fired, so that which certified if the build was good, and what kind of a quality the build was. So with pretty much minimal to no user intervention, you would have as soon as the code was committed, you would have the whole build deployment process automated, and then you would have automated testing run. So that's the whole concept of DevOps with your CI/CD pipelines. Moving on. So as I said, so what enabled the DevOps bandwagon, right? So basically, from my perspective, there's three parts to it. So obviously, people. So that mindset of collaboration, the culture of communication consistently with a single goal of uh, you know delivering faster product to the market, and also the mindset of having this single goal of where the success and failure of the team is shared. So it's not about individual heroics, it's not about one person being responsible, it's the whole team which is responsible. So obviously the focus, without people nothing is possible, so obviously people. And then the process, so as I spoke about the process in terms of one of the biggest enablers for DevOps was probably the agile SDLC, software development model, because then you were able to improve the process so that you have that workflow moving through in the system faster. Then and absolutely the tools, right? Cutting edge tools now coming into market to automate if not everything, most of the things, and obviously choosing the right tool. So these three components are basically the primary and enablers of DevOps: so the people, process, and tools. So again, I think this slide is pretty cluttered. You've got so many different tools available in the market which try to achieve DevOps. There are certain tools which actually have tried to integrate every component of the whole life cycle, so that you can use just one tool to have your complete integrated CI/CD pipelines, the whole DevOps journey. But also in addition to that, you've got at each level, each phase, you've got different products you can pick and choose, which help you kind of go through the whole DevOps. So as you can see on the left, we've got the plan, which is there's simple tools such as people even today use Microsoft Excel, for example, which is Office on the left there. People are using Google Drive to store the documentation, the plan. You've got Trello boards, you've got Azure boards, you've got Microsoft Teams, anything and everything which can be used. And then obviously from a build perspective, you've got different tools in the market such as GitLab, NPM. You've got Kubernetes, you've got Dockers and containers to actually build. Then as you go through the pipeline, you've got continuous integration tools such as Jenkins, CodeShip, and others. You've got deployment tools, for example, Microsoft Azure. You've got build configuration and management tools such as Chef, Puppet, and others. And then as you go to more into production, you've got post-production monitoring tools such as Neuralix. You've got Splunk, you've got Loggly, Nagios. In fact, I think one of the very popular tool for mobile deployment and mobile log management is Bugsnax, which is up there. So there's as I said, right, there's hundreds of tools available in the market which enable you to achieve your DevOps journey. And what we're gonna do today is maybe look at one tool which again because we have Microsoft as a partner here, so we've chosen Azure DevOps as a tool to show you what's possible and how Microsoft does DevOps. So as you can see on this slide, we've got the whole DevOps through the Microsoft way. So obviously as I said, on the planning side, you've got Azure board as a service, and then you've got on the development side, you've got GitHub now is a Microsoft product, and then you've got Azure repos to manage your various repositories, be it your release branches, your individual branches for each feature, or your trunk, for example, and your multiple sprints going on different repos as well. Then you've got for integration and build, you've got Azure pipelines, and you've got Azure artifacts for packaging. From a testing perspective, you've got Azure test plans where you can write your test cases, you can store your test cases, you can execute them, you can automate them. And then obviously getting into release, you've got Azure Deploy Apps and Azure Server. And then for build and configuration, you've got Azure Migrate and Configure. You've got Azure Reporting. You've got even Azure to monitor logs and others. You've got App Insights. You've got Azure Monitor. So it's basically Microsoft provides for each step they have a product, and it's all tightly integrated. Um, so what I will do is, probably stop here for a minute. What we really wanted to do is wanted to show you a real case example where you can actually see everything happening in action. Yeah. So as you can see here, guys, on the left, this is the product from Microsoft called Microsoft Azure DevOps. And as I said, so this has got basically pretty much everything you need for your DevOps journey. You've got the boards, which have work items. You've got your sprint planning, your backlogs, your delivery plans, your work items, and stuff like that. You've got repos where you have your all your files, the code. You can create your branching strategy, your tags, and stuff like that. Then you have the pipelines, which basically is for your build and release. As you can see here, release. You've got your test plans. Gives you test progress, your runs, stuff like that, and then the artifacts. If you had any dependencies and everything else can go into that. What we also have in our current project, for example, is in terms of communication, we've got Slack integrated to it. As you can see here, each day we have builds going in, builds going into production, builds going into UAT and development. So basically, we have at a minimum, I think usually each project has a development environment for the developers to play with, and then obviously a more stable business UAT environment, and then obviously the production environment. In addition to the local development. So as you can see, as and when a build is kicked, so if a developer commits a code, as soon as the code commit happens, the build kicks in. As you can see here, there is that build with that date. The build gets started, takes about 20 odd minutes, and then build, if it succeeded, or even if it fails, it gets reported to Slack, and you get notifications on your mobile, on your email, and also within the Slack app. And then based upon the location of your commit, right? So based upon your branching strategy, obviously we have each release branch defined. So if the commit goes to a release branch, then obviously the build completes, and then the deployment automatically starts to the release branch. If it goes to the UAT branch, then the UAT kicks in. And if it's the if it happens to if the code, if you're pushing the code to prod, and then obviously then it goes through the production, and it's reported here. So Pravat, if you want to maybe just do a code commit, it would
Yes.
have been better if you could have seen your screen. But assuming you do the code commit,
Shall
maybe I
I
can.
try one more time or like it's fine?
Um, I think go ahead. I think you just issue the bill, and what I will do is, I'll probably go into the pipelines and see if the I can show the build logs when they kickstart.
Okay, sure, sure.
So
So
just let me know when
here
you
I'm
kick.
gonna change it. So basically, we are using Git for managing the code repo. So I'm gonna commit my changes. So whatever right now I have made it. So it's a small changes. So I'm just putting a note in it. Test change. So I just committed the changes. Now I'm gonna push it. I'm just when I push it, it will go to the Azure DevOps. So the repo where you manage all the code. So basically, in the on the local, I'm pushing the code to the server. So everything will be managed here. So as you can see here, one build is kicked off, and it is a test changes. So now you can see here if there is a agent is here. So what does agent does, like it manage the code, and it create allocate one thread to the to run the this process. So basically it is managed by Azure, and then we have defined a set of instructions to run the code. First, what it will do, it will build the entire application. So we have a couple set of application like what it will post to the Slack. So basically, means that means we will get notified. Okay, one build is started here. So for the dev environment, so we like that we have multiple environments: dev, UAT, productions, and staging. There are multiple environment. On the basis of the environment, the message will come. And then we have couple of like Azure predefined and so basically it's like YAML files. So YAML is we can say here we can mention our scripts, what to do to provide our set of instructions to the Azure. So it will all the information will read by this agent, and it will be like execute accordingly. So like as you can see, Imran, can you scroll down? We can see number of tasks are there. So it gonna execute one by one. So left side, Imran. So isn't, yeah, like come below, scroll down. Yeah, like node npm install npm. So basically what we need for this, basically this application is in .NET. So if you have any other like in Java or any other Python application, and you can build any applications. So though this application is built on .NET, so on that basis we have defined our set of instructions and set of like building the application. So whatever required, so set of instruction has been put added here, and it is called as a task. Each instruction as a, you can assume each task will complete one by one, then the build will complete. So once the build will complete, it will also send a final notification to the, using the Slack channel. So we'll get the information, okay, the build is started, and then it says completed. Then once the build is completed, so we need to deploy the code into the Azure. So basically our application is hosted in the Azure portal. So there is a app service, so where application is hosted. So each so can you go to Imran pipeline?
Yep, sure.
Yeah, pipeline. And then can you just click on edit pipeline, this one. Go to this.
Uh,
Yeah, click on this. Click on RS step build. Yeah. Then go to edit pipeline. Yeah. Here are as you can see, it's everything is defined here, as we saw that in that build. Means build is happening. Then every if you'll see, every thing is defined here, what we need to do and what is the steps, what comes fast first, then second, third, like that. We have did all those things. Then if you'll see, can you click on the Slack, Imran? There is a
sure.
task called Slack, sending to
Okay.
the Slack compose to Slack. Yeah, there are a couple of information mentioned here, like post to what is the message. You can see that we same message we have sent, rs ba3 rs dev build. Then the message is configured here. So like the variable names, and then there is a Slack API token from which it is calling, and the channel, what channel. We have multiple channels in Slack. It will identify which channel to send, and this information as yeah, yeah, rs, yeah, that build one. Then each thing is defined in the variable. Can you go to the variable, Imran, please? Yeah. So if you see, there is a Slack API, Slack API token. So what that is provided by Slack, and this thing is reading by that task. Okay, we have defined already this variable, and this is reading by this token, and the channel. What channel also we have defined it. So these two information we have defined, and like that other information, whatever the variables required for this build, everything is defined in the variable section. So everything can be defined, and that will be read by the task, each of the task. Okay, so everyone can go to the triggers.
Sure.
Yeah. So as you saw that once I committed one changes, and then the deployment means the build kicked off, and the means it started the build. So how it will know? So once you changes something, and basically the everything is maintained by all code is maintained centralized, that is repos. It's a git repo, we are using git. So everything is managed by the code, managed by the repo. And in the repo there are multiple branches. Like there is master, there is release branch, there is sprint branch. So currently we are in like sprint 24, as you can see, sprint 24. And currently whatever the commit is happening into the sprint, not only me, it's the commit is can be done by multiple developers. Anyone who is working on this project, they can commit. So we no need to wait for merge everything, and wait for someone to manage our code, and kick up the build and everything. So this entire thing, operations, is completely managed by the DevOps. So operations. So here we have defined the branch specification, which branch the code is going to be taken, like for this release. So now we have defined this as sprint 24. So like that we can define which branch, from which branch we want to take the code. So here, as you can see, it's a trigger enable. So there is a check box is there, enable continuous integration. So what does mean that? So this means it will automatically once the changes is happen and code is pushed, it will automatically kick the build. So each build, uh, once build is done, then we can see sort of summaries and queues and everything. So there are additional options we can mention over there, but this is all the necessary things to know, like if you are working in DevOps. So then
So do you,
yeah.
should we go to release, Pravat, in interest of time?
Yeah, sure. So this is the build, and then the release. Release also have different environment, as you can see. The release like production, staging, UAT, Dev has multiple environment. So we'll go for the Dev release. So Imran, can you go to the Dev release pipeline? Yes. No, that the up one, top one. Yes. So basically, here also manually you can trigger a release. So basically, once the build will complete, then the release automatically will trigger. But the time it will require like 20-30 minutes to complete that build and everything. So we don't have that much of time. So let's Imran, create a release. Create a release.
Yeah, should do you think we should just do a creative release now, or do you want to
Yes.
cancel the build because we have to
Uh,
cancel the build before the release happens?
yes, we can cancel that. Then we can create a.
Yeah, or we can just show the build we just did some time ago. So obviously if you look here, I think so we just did just today we did a build, and then if you look at logs, so the way it
Logs.
works is obviously as you can see, right? So Azure actually after the build gets completed initializes, it searches for a kind of a agent, and then starts the deployment, and obviously has all the dependencies, and as you can see here, right? So it goes through
It's reading
each.
every
Yeah.
artifacts. Yeah, all the artifacts or whatever we are defined and each of the environment. So there are multiple deployments. We don't have only one deployment. It's API deployment. It's website deployment. It's your web server deployment, and your backend process like backend, that is a web job. So basically that is nothing but the console application. So these there are multiple things. Once the build is done, so basically it will generate all the DLLs, and DLLs and everything is going to be deployed. So if you think in the manual process, so basically in a server we have IaaS, and everything is configured by Azure. So basically it's we have to just provide the path where you want to host. So this so for this application we have a server and we have a virtual machine, everything is there. So basically we need to provide the path, and the path we have configured in this pipeline, deployment pipeline, and it is going to be copy all those build files and the pasted in the final server, means the destination, source and destination. Basically it does that, the final deployment. So
Okay. Yeah, thank
yeah,
you, Prabhat. I
yeah.
think In the interest of time, I think I'm hoping that I think our audience has basically got a good idea of how the whole pipeline is set up and is running. Um, so I think I was given about 20 minutes for this presentation. We are already, I think, behind. I think we've already done more than 30 minutes. So I'll just quickly go through the trends in terms of, for future, right? So again, I've got basically two trends from Forbes and Gartner. And so I think the industry is already talking about how DevOps will evolve, I think, for future. So in terms of, what you can expect this year and then in some of the future years. So Forbes basically saying the trends you can't ignore is DevOps evolving into not just DevOps as in those pipelines and automation happening on the development slash deployment slash release slash testing, but also moving to data ops. So what data ops is basically is basically automating the assembly line for data and analytics. And in fact, I think we are already seeing this is happening. In fact, we are having multiple projects we are running now for the whole data pipeline, where data is obviously available and coming from multiple sources, and we are live streaming that data using Kafka channels into say assume a S3 bucket, then transforming the data and then moving the data into a warehouse or a data lake, and then running analytics on top of it using tools such as Power BI and Tableau for our end users and CXO level people be able to analyze that. So data operations, the whole automation of the data pipeline is the next big thing. Similarly, when you have data, as I said, we are a AI ML company, so we work through all the data pipelines in from data collection to data injection, etc., etc. And then once we have all the data in a central repository, there are a lot of model building happening from a machine learning perspective. So then next comes ML ops. So basically, the next big thing is from a machine learning algorithms and models being being automated so that you can have these models deployed into production reliably and efficiently. Similarly, you also have something called DevSecOps, which is around security and operations, so that you have basically automating the integration of security at every stage of software development life cycle. So basically getting the security from into design, the integration, testing and deployment, which means you will have automated code scans running from a security standpoint and stuff like that. So automating the whole pipeline and having security at each step. And as you can see, Gartner is basically saying, Gartner has 9 tech trends for future, and Gartner is saying DevOps is the binding particle that basically binds all 9 tech trends. So DevOps is basically here to stay. I think I will open up the floor for any question and answers. We will also be sharing the slides with the organizers, and I think they will eventually share it with you guys. At the end of the presentation, I've listed some of the main terms we've used in terms of definitions. What is CI, CD, CT, as I said, DevOps, ML, and SecOps. Similarly, from a agile perspective, some of the definitions up there. I also have some links for further reading if you're interested in pursuing this area. But I think, yeah, going back to Q&A. So if I think we can probably take a few questions for maybe next 2-3 minutes. So if there's any questions, feel free to ask. Either I or Pravat will try to answer them. Yeah, over to you guys. Any questions? Okay, so no questions. Okay, so if there are no questions, and I think if everything made sense, I think good. I think what I will do is, I'll just stop sharing my presentation now, and hand over back to the organizers. Thank you all for attending today's session. Hope it was useful. Okay, so I got one question from Bongani. What skill set is needed to become a DevOps engineer? So yeah, really good question. Again, as I said, in terms of skill set, the first skill set is from a mindset perspective, right? So the mindset around collaborating with each team member, being able to consistently communicate. So those are the more of the softer skills. But in addition to that, yes, from a tool technology perspective, being able to script, be it shell script or any other being able to for example, Azure now, I think back in the day when I was doing stuff, you had to do shell scripting, you had to do command line programming and stuff like that. But now you've got GUI, so you're able to configure. But obviously you need at least mastery in one development language, generally say one of these scripting languages, be it Perl or be it shell scripting and stuff like that. So obviously you need one programming language to be able to configure and automate these pipelines. I hope I've been able to answer that. I think if there's any other questions, I'll be happy to take maybe another question and then answer. Okay, so if there's no other question, back to the organizers. Thank you, Tiani. Thank you for us, to.
Imran, one more
Oh, so
question.
there's one more question. What do I need to have cloud skills? Um, a bit of yes and a no. It's obviously useful. I think we are moving. Everyone is moving towards cloud. So I would say basically there are three major players in the market now. So there's Azure, there's GCP from Google, then there is AWS. So yeah, I think having some knowledge in those areas will be certainly useful, because I think we are already seeing most of the market moving to cloud. So yes, having some skills in the cloud, at least conceptually, and being able to use that, it will be useful. Absolutely, yes.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, my question was, I saw one of the demonstrations you deployed, obviously within Azure. Are you able to deploy into to an on-prem server of your own using this whole Git solution? I mean, this DevOps solution of Azure.
Who am I talking to? I think the question came
Sorry,
from.
it's Fred.
Hi, Fred. Yeah.
Yes.
So obviously, as Fred, you saw in one of the slides, right? We had a number of tools available in the market, and I think there's hundreds of tools, each trying to do and automate certain parts of the whole pipeline. So yes, there are tools available which can be used for on-prem solutions, based upon which technology you're using. Obviously, Microsoft prefers that you be a Microsoft shop, you have those technologies. But based upon if you're using open source technologies, you may be inclined towards AWS, or if you're doing stuff of your own, right? So then you have to use various tools available. For example, for build integration, you may end up using a tool such as Jenkins. For configuration, you may choose Chef. So it's a combination of different things. So yes, everything is possible, but based upon on-prem, what infrastructure you're running. Are you doing more on the? Are you on the more on the open source side, or are you on the more on the commercial side? You may have to choose a relevant tool based upon that. Okay. Thank you, Thiani, for hosting us. I hope we've been helpful. So I think I'll go on mute now. I think if there's other presentations, they can continue on. It's 2 a.m. in the morning for me, so I think I'm gonna close my presentation and then try to get a shut eye. Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, can everyone hear me? Here we go. All right. Yes. So thank you so much to the team at RoundSqr, and I know you came in quite late into the process, and you supported this. And we thank you, Imran. Thank you also to the entire team. But I just want to quickly let perhaps Mr. Kiran to quickly say some words from RoundSqr.
Hi everyone. I know this was not planned, but Tiani, thanks so much for giving us the opportunity to present about DevOps. It's exciting, first of all, to see so many people on the call, so many young, youngsters looking to get into the tech world. This is exciting. Just a few points. I know I don't want to bore you with technology, but I would like to say that uh, the future is all about technology. Every business, based on the conversations that we are having with companies worldwide, are adopting technology. Companies that you haven't thought about in the past using technology are looking at ways of leveraging emerging technologies to become better. So I think technology is evolving fast, and and businesses are using technology to become better, and that's the only way for them to survive. So um, exciting times for all of you guys. At the same time, I would request that you focus on an area of your passion, whether it is DevOps, machine learning, data science, data engineering, whatever is your passion. Pick up one area and become really an expert in that area, while you sort of develop skills across all the other areas as well. That's worked for me throughout my career, and I think that's the way to progress. You become masters in one, but at the same time learn a lot of other things as well. Um, so that's my recommendation to you all, to all you guys. Just pick up one area. um, so yeah, I think that's about what I had. And I don't know, Tian, if you want me to cover anything specific, but I don't want to again bore too much about RoundSqr, but we do a lot of work with global clientele across the US, Australia, Europe, and in fact, we've done some work with customers in South Africa as well. That's an area that I'd like to visit at some point in time. I have not been to Africa. I've been to all other continents pretty much, but Africa is one place that I've not been to. I've heard some wonderful stories about some very, really good places out there. Would like to come at some point in time, visit and then meet you all. But yeah, 100 people going well. We think that we'll be able to do a good job in meeting some of our customers' needs across the world.
Awesome stuff. No, we definitely look forward to hosting you in South Africa. And once again, thank you. And I've just posted the link on the chat. I urge everyone, the participants, to please fill in that survey just to help us get more sense. And even if you have attended previous sessions as well, please do give feedback based on those. And then there is another DevOps session by Microsoft 24 to 25 January, and I will be sending out an email. Well, actually, Charlotte is here as well, my colleague. She will also be in touch with more. So we will be sending out links. We'll be sending out a presentation, and you will be able to continue the learning. Yeah, the next one is happening on the 24th and the 25th of January. But for now, if there are no further questions, we are going to end it here for tonight. And we urge that you do register for this is for the workshop from the 24th up until the 25th with the Microsoft team. And thank you so much for coming through. As we begin the year, we wish you the best of luck. We wish you great health. We wish you greatness as we start the year. With that, thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Have a great evening. And yeah. Oh, yes. Mr. Kiran, please go on.
No, I was just saying thank you. That's about it.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.